Hi, this is Ali Arango of littleguyscgi.com. In this video, what you're going to learn how to do is you're going to learn how to take a character mesh and then take the geometry from that mesh and then form a shirt as well as pants. You're going to learn how to use masks to put wrinkles in the shirt as well as the pants. Making these clothes does not use any kind of physics. It's fairly easy to do. You're going to learn how to put shaders on the shirt as well as the pants. You're also going to learn how to enhance the wrinkles in the pants using things like the crease brush. You're also going to learn how to set up lighting to get a better look at your clothes. As you work your way through this tutorial, as well as watch your way through the tutorial, I not only try to explain what I'm doing, I try to explain why I'm doing what I'm doing. So thanks for watching this tutorial, and I hope you enjoy it. If you like the way that I teach tutorials on this channel, in a way that's step by step, where I try to explain a lot about what I'm doing, I try to say the key presses, pretty much whatever I'm doing on the screen. I try to go in depth and describe what I'm doing. If you like tutorials like this, please give this video a like. That'll make the YouTube robots happy. Also, if you'd like to support your channel even more, consider supporting me on Patreon. If you go to the upper right, you can see a link where you can get to Patreon. Thanks for watching this video. Hi, this is Ali Arango of Little Guy CGI, and today I would like to show you how to make some clothes in Blender 2.81. So let's get started. Okay, what you see in front of you is a model that I made in another tutorial. I'll put a link up so you can get to that. I've done clothes a bunch of different ways on this channel. The reason I'm making this tutorial now is there are a lot of new ways that you can make clothes up fairly easily using the new voxel remesh as well as quad remesh techniques in Blender 2.81. Okay, I'm going to roll my mouse wheel back. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate this slightly to the side. Okay, one of the ways this tutorial came up is I was talking to someone in the comments, and they were saying that there was a nice way to make clothes was you select your mesh, you copy pieces, some of the faces, duplicate that, and then make the clothes from that. And I was saying that I had done that in the past. However, there was issues with topology. Long story short, I realized that now with the remesh tool, that method does work fairly well. So that's what we're going to do right here. So with the model here selected, we're going to go to our upper left. We're going to then go to edit mode. And then what we're going to do is we're on face select. We're going to press C for paint select. And basically we are painting the area that we want to use for our clothes. So I'm going to right click to come out of paint select. I'm holding the middle mouse button to rotate the view, pressing C to activate paint select again. I'm going to right click to come out of paint select. Hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. Press C to activate paint select again. I'm going to push the middle mouse button to deselect right there. Then I'm left clicking here. So I'm going to right click to come out of paint select again. Okay, I'm going to take a look, and we can see here. So I'm going to press C for paint select. Just making sure we have all the spots. Press C for paint select. So I'm basically grabbing the area that looks like a decent t-shirt is what's going through my mind. All right, so with all of this selected, we're going to hold shift and then press D and then right click. So we duplicated this material, right? So we have a duplicate of all that you see here. So what we're going to do is press P. This brings up our separate menu. We're then going to choose selection. So now that area that we selected is now its own object. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to object mode. See how the mesh is highlighted, the entire mesh? We're going to left click. So now you can see like the highlight is just going over the upper part of the body. So you can tell this is the shirt, or the parts of the mesh that we want to turn into the shirt. Okay, so basically this mesh, what's making this mesh look like how it is, it has a normal map. As a matter of fact, I'll select here. So here you can see without the normal map applied. So this duplicate of the upper body that we're going to turn into a shirt has the normal map as well as, the rest of the materials, right? So we're going to go to the material tab, and these are the materials here. And what we're going to do is we're going to select this minus button to take those materials away. So then I'm going to select new. So here's the mesh, without the previous materials on there. Okay, when I go to the upper left and we go into edit mode, you can see that this still has the topology of the old body. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the remesh modifier to change that topology. So currently this has a shape key on it. So I'm going to go to basis first and just take that shape key off. I'm then going to go to the modifiers. We have a mirror modifier. I'm going to apply that. I have a solidify modifier. I'm actually going to hold shift and while holding shift, drag to the left to take advantage of the solidify modifier, just to give this, actually I don't want to do that now. So I was going to apply it. I'm not. I'm going to, when you're working with the solidify modifier and close, you want to do your remesh before you do the solidify modifier. So I'm going to select the X button, and then I have an armature on this. I'm going to select apply. The reason why I'm applying this is because I don't want anything to change. I want the shirt to be just how it is. So the geometry is still, just like how it was on the body. Okay, so we're about to use the remesh to change the topology of the shirt. So you want to look to your right. You're going to see the triangle looks like a triangle with circles on it. You're going to select there, scroll down. You'll see the remesh. So there's voxel remesh as well as quad remesh. Voxel remesh, I tend to use this when I want a lot of geometry. The voxel remesh is very quick. The quad remesh is slower. The quad remesh also pays attention more to the direction of your faces. Sometimes these remeshes will have give you undesired effects, and it seems to me that when you work together with them, you can typically get the effect that you want. So what we're going to do for this is we're going to go to the quad remesh, right? You won't see the options for the quad remesh until you select quadraflow remesh. Typically, this 4000 tends to work well for starting off with close. In this instance, I'm going to change this to 10,000. The reason why I'm changing this to 10,000 is, while I said that this normally works well with starting off at 4,000, when I did this previously, the bottom of the shirt changed more than I wanted it to. This right here, where this says use paint symmetry, this basically means don't even really think about the paint. It just means symmetry. So what this does on one side, it'll do on the other side. This tends to cause me issues, so I tend to turn this off. So in this instance, I am going to turn this off. And then with this set to 10,000, I'm going to select OK. And the quad remesh, as you can see on the bottom, tends to take a little longer than the voxel remesh. Okay. Okay, and I said it tends to take longer. As you can see, I guess you didn't see because you didn't see Vox Remesh yet. Anyway, with this on, with this remesh done, when we go to the upper left and go to edit mode, you can see that my topology is very different than it was before. Fairly decent, fairly even. I'm going to go back to object mode. As far as this going into the body, we could either scale this up or we could use a solidify modifier. I'm going to go to the wrench, put a solidify modifier on this, and then I'm going to take the thickness up some, slightly like that. I'm then going to unselect fill rim and go to only rim. Okay, I'm going to right click, select shade smooth. I'm also going to add another modifier, and that's the smooth modifier. This tends to work well, I find, when using the quad remesh, the voxel remesh, the solidify modifier. So with the smooth modifier, see this factor of 1 is set for 0.500. We're going to change this to 1. And then we're going to use these arrows. We're going to move this above the solidify modifier. And then with this above right here, we're going to take this repeat up just to smooth this out some. Okay, we're about to go into scope mode, so we want to apply these modifiers so this won't affect our ability to mask adversely. So I'm going to select apply as well as apply. Okay, so with this shirt selected, we're going to go to scope mode. Hold the middle mouse button to take a look. We have this, these pieces where the mesh is coming through. So what we can do is just go to the inflate brush. I'll press F to increase the size of my brush. And this, very easily, we're able to stop that the parts where the other mesh is coming through. Hold the middle mouse button or rotate. Okay, one useful thing in scope mode I find is if you go to the upper right, this is the overlay button. If you select this arrow right next to here, see this wireframe right here. So you see geometry, wireframe. If you right click here, I already did this, you can select add to quick favorites. I recommend you do that. So I did this already. So when I press the Q key, this pops up, which is quick favorites. And then what I can do is just see the wireframe very easily. And this makes it easy to work here in scope mode. So I'll press Q and then unselect that. Okay, to make things easier to see as we work here, we're going to go to the upper right. We're going to go to the viewport shading mode. We're going to make sure we're on matte cap. When you select here, you have your matte caps. I like this one here, particularly. There's other ones you can pick from, and I also recommend you put a check mark next to cavity. It just makes it easier to work here in scope mode. Also, you want to select your top toolbars, scroll down until you see symmetry, and then what you're going to do is take off this or take away this X from here. So this has symmetry happen automatically in scope mode. Symmetry doesn't tend to work too well as far as making wrinkles, which we're about to do in scope mode. That's why we took that off. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go to our mask brush. We're going to start drawing in some wrinkles. So we want to come from areas where there's tension. So we're going to come right from here. So I'm going to shrink the size of my brush by pressing F, then pushing in. And come across just like this. I'll kind of come like that. I'm gonna shrink the size of my brush. So be careful about being too close to the edges. We're gonna come from tension points. So right from here, you're gonna kind of curve your line some. Do the same thing on the back. So we're kind of like aiming at, like, I guess you would say the joint. A lot of times, I think it tends to work well to think of wrinkles and XYZ patterns. Okay, so with that done, I'm going to hold control as well as I'm going to mouse button to zoom back. Okay, wherever you see the black at, that protects things so that whatever is underneath the black, which is the mask, it's protected. So we selected what we want to work on. So what we have to do is hold control, then press I. So now everything is protected but what we want to work on. I like to use the blob brush. The blob brush works very quickly. Be careful though. You don't want to have these, we're going to go over this. They're going to come up from the blob brush. These areas are going to expand out. You don't want to do too much though. So the blob brush is very quick. If it feels like it's too much for you, I would recommend you use the clay strips brush. You just want to come out somewhat, not too much. If you do come out too much or think you can hold shift, and what shift does is shift automatically, whatever brush you're on, activates the smooth brush. So if you think you overdid it, just use the hold shift and you should be good with that. This is just a fairly quick way to get wrinkles. So now that we did that, making sure this isn't too much. These ones I want to be somewhat big, not too much. Now I'm going to hold Alt, press M to deselect. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the crease brush. So I'm holding control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom in. Crease brush is good for making edges sharper. So I'm going to hold control, go over the parts that are sticking out the most. Basically putting an edge on them. Then in between, I'll actually not hold control to actually go down some. This right here went down too far. I can just go to the inflate brush and get rid of that. I'll go back to the crease brush. Holding control again, making these sharper. Not holding control, going in between. Holding control, holding control, holding control. Making those sharper there. I'll go to the inflate brush for here. Just what's going on there? Oh, that's not the inflate, that's why. That was the crease. Okay. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to object mode. With our shirt selected, we're going to add a smooth modifier. We're going to set the factor to 1. We're going to take this repeat up. Just an easy way to smooth out some of the wrinkles. We'll take a look. So I'm going to apply this. If we want to smooth out more, we can always hold the shift button. Kind of, if we think some are too much. Okay, so we'll go back to object mode. We'll add a solidify modifier on. We'll hold shift. Shift gives us fine control. Just slightly, coming out just to give some slight amount of thickness. I'm then going to select just taking a look. This, a lot of times let you see how things are actually going to be in a sense. I'm going to apply that now. I'm going to go to the top. See how this looks here. Okay, hopefully from looking at this, you can get the idea. Like even without using physics or anything, you can get some decent wrinkles. And we'll go put a shader on this. It should make things look better. So let's take the base color, make that like a gray. What we're going to do is go to the right. So I went to the shading tab up top. This tab is set up just for working with shaders. That's what most of these tabs like allow you to. You don't have to switch here to use a shader. You can be in a regular mode and get these menus. These tabs are just meant to make things easier for you. Okay, as far as the shaders, a few things we can do to make the shirt look so it's looks better is you want to go to your right. You want to turn on this ambient occlusion here, put a check mark there for that. What we're going to do in here is we're going to go to add input. We're going to bring in an ambient occlusion node. We're in Eevee, by the way. We're going to go to add convector color ramp. Move this over. We're going to select add color. Mix RGB. We'll go from the AO to the factor to the color. Then what we can do is we can adjust these houses here, and you can see we can see the shirt better there like that. I want the grayish color that I originally set back, so I'm just going to bring this down. Something like that. We can adjust this slider. So this slider, when I push this all the way up, affects this color here. So what else we can do is we can break up the smoothness of the shirt. We can do that by going to add texture Voronoi, and then we'll select add convector color ramp. You tend to use color ramps a lot. We'll go to add vector bump. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go from distance to factor. We're going to go from color to height is what you want here. So make sure you're putting this in height. I'll zoom in so you can see that. And then you want to go from normal to normal. So make sure you're on normal. So you see this right here, right? You'll switch these houses and you can adjust them there. what you're going to do is take the scale of the Veranoid texture up to about around 350. Once you take this up, what you're going to do is go to your strength. The strength is currently set for 1. You're going to change this to 0.1. And what that does is that gives you, breaks up this smoothness, if you can see that. You can also take it up if you don't think that's enough. For the shader itself, for like the settings of our, if you don't know what this is the printable shader. This lets you have a lot of control over what you're working with. You're going to take the specular pretty much, down to nothing. You're going to take this, the sheen all the way up. It's very important there. Taking the roughness just about all the way up. Now I'm just taking a look at the shirt. So yeah, it's just a fairly decent way to make a shirt. Obviously, the more time you put in, the better results you can get. If you wanted to have more ambient occlusion, you could increase the distance here, and that will help you out with seeing that. Also, the material that we made here is called Material 8. We'll name this cloth, and we can use that over again. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to pretty much repeat this process by making pants. So we're going to back to layout. Okay, I'm going to go to edit mode just to take a quick look at this shirt. Be aware, the wrinkles and things you see. Most of the things I make on this channel, I make them to be animatable. You can fairly easily transfer these wrinkles to a lower poly version of the shirt, and the remesh actually can help you with that as well. And then just use a normal map to get this detail on there. I just figured I'd mention that. We're not going to do that in this video. There's other videos on this channel. Or if you're interested in that, send a comment to me, and I'll try to help you out with that. Anyway, what we're going to do here is we're going to select the legs. We'll go to edit mode, very similar to what we did before. We have these seams in here, right? So we're going to take advantage of them. We'll select the face select. We'll hover here, and because these seams, what we can do is just press L, and we'll actually select the areas that are inside of those seams. Okay, so with this area selected, we'll hold Shift, press D. We duplicate these. I move my mouse to the side often just to make sure I have to duplicate, and then I right click. And when I right click, I didn't click anything when I pulled to the side. All the geometry jumps right back to its original position. So we have a duplicate of this geometry right over top of the original geometry. So just like before, we're going to press P to bring up our separate menu and then choose selection. So now that geometry is its own object. So we're going to go to the upper left and then go to object mode. So now we'll left click and this highlight. We can see this orange outline going around the entire character. We'll select again. Now we can see the orange outline going just around the this area, the new object that we made. Okay, very similar to before. Let's go to our materials. We'll take away that material, select new, so there's a new material on there. When we go to edit mode, you can see we have the same topology that we had from our mesh. One of the things that I didn't like about this method of duplicating the character mesh was the fact that it kept the topology. However, the remesh makes it very easy to deal with changing the topology. So what we're going to do is we're going to have these shape keys on here from previous work. So I'm just selecting minus to get rid of them. Going to the modifier. I'm going to select the mirror modifier I had on previously, as well as the solidify, as well as the armature modifier. Okay, now we're going to go back to the triangle with the circles on it. That's what it looks like to me anyway. The remesh, we're going to go to quad remesh. We won't see the settings for the quadraflow remesh until we select this button. The default is 4000. We're actually going to leave this symmetry on. Remember, this will make what happens on one side try to happen to the other side. We're going to then select OK. Okay, so we'll go to the upper left, select edit mode. Now you can see, look at the topology. It's different, it's even. Good stuff. So very similar to what we did before. We'll go back to the upper left. We're going to go to our wrench, which is our modifier tab. We're going to add a smooth modifier on. Then we're going to add a solidify modifier. Okay, with the solidify modifier, we'll make this thicker, this being the pants. Right click, select shade smooth. Which are actually already fairly smooth. I'll still take this factor to 1 just to smooth the pants out even more. So with that done, I'll select apply as well as apply. Okay, we'll go to our, let's go to edit, see the topology, looks good. We'll go to back to object mode. Just taking a look again. Okay, we'll go to scope mode. Here in scope mode, let's change things so we can see what we're working on. I will press the Q key. So we're going to increase our geometry. I'm going to press Q. We're going to do that by using our remesh, our vox remesh. We're going to set this voxel size to 0.05. Then press enter. We'll select remesh. Now we'll press Q. You see we have a lot more geometry there. See these the geometry isn't quite smooth. Like see these like lines going through here. One of the things you can do with that, I'm going to press Q, turn the wireframe off. See this fixed poles? We're going to select fixed poles. We'll select voxel remesh again. And now you can see that there's less of those. There's less of that there. Okay, I'm going to go to the upper left, go back to object mode just so I can do shade smooth. Go back to scope mode. Here in scope mode, we should still have our symmetry off. We can click the tools. Look at symmetry, that's off. That's what we want, which is good. Okay, before we start putting our wrinkles in, we're going to put some seams in these pants. We're going to go to view, down to local view. We're going to select toggle local view. This will allow us to just focus on these pants. When drawing seams in, one of the things that tends to be very useful is we're going to use the crease brush. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to where we see stroke. So we're in the tools menu. Here's stroke right here. We'll select this arrow. The default stroke method is space. So pretty much we have been using space the entire time. We're going to go to drag dot. And what this drag dot does is as I move my mouse, there'll be a dot that drags slightly behind. This allows you to smoothly draw lines as well as seams into objects like these pants here. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to go to our upper left. We're going to go to view, go to local view so we can just focus on the pants. We're going to, before we put the the wrinkles in our pants, we're going to put creases in. So to do that, we're going to select our crease tool. We're going to go to our right, select our tools panel. We're looking for stroke. So we're going to select the arrow next to stroke. And then we're going to look to where we see smooth stroke. We're going to put a check mark here. What this is going to allow us to do is to have to more smoothly put these seams in. I find that to zoom back tends to work better for putting the seams in. I'm going to press F to shrink the size of my brush. And this, I think, is a good view for us to work from. Okay, so the tools in Blender, like the crease brush, tend to work normally by coming out. The crease brush actually works by going in, so we're going to go slightly to the left of center, and then we're just going to drag that. What we want to do is come all the way down and then actually back up. Like that. We're going to do the same thing on the side. I'll zoom back some. I'm kind of following the curvature of the, how the legs would be in the pants. I'm just going over that same seam that I'm working on to make it deeper. Symmetry here would not have been a bad thing, but it's fine. I'm talking about symmetry, like if we had symmetry on, we would only have to do one side. However, this is fairly quick. Oh, I went off some there. Okay, you want to do the inside too. Trying to come down for the most part to center while following the flow of the legs. Then to come back to a front view, then go into the other view. Makes me feel like I have more control. That's pretty good. Now across here. I'm trying not to go totally straight. I'm kind of trying to follow the curve of the mesh. Okay. There is a tool called the Draw Sharp. Just curious. This looks a little shallow, so I'm going to hold Control because Draw Sharp would draw out. I need to put the smooth stroke on for there. There we go. Okay, so the draw, I'm going over this again because the Draw Sharp is giving us a much more distinct seam. If you wanted, you could come back and do this for the shirt as well. Now I'm holding control, by the way, as I'm using this tool. So I'm letting go of control and then re-holding control again. So the crease, you know, goes in, the draw sharp naturally comes out. So I'm holding control so it does the opposite of what it normally does. Well, it works very well. Okay, same thing, holding control. Holding shift as well as the middle mouse button to pan. Holding the middle mouse button to rotate, holding shift as well as the middle mouse button to pan. Holding control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom out. Okay. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to take this smooth stroke off. I'm going to go to the crease brush, make sure that's off as well. We're going to go to our mask now. We're going to draw in very similar to before, away from tension. We're just pulling. I'm trying to make my brush slightly bigger. Okay, underneath the knees, typically you'll have these kind of like Z patterns. Put a Y here. On the back, I'll put lines coming from here. Underneath the knees, you'll have these Z patterns typically. Another one here. Okay, so with that done, mostly done, what I'm going to do is hold control, press I to invert that selection. I'm going to go to the blob brush. Be careful you don't put too much. The blob brush is fast, but it can you know, if you want smoother control, you might want to use the clay strips. Though here in the blob brush, you can always smooth this out as well. Hold the middle mouse button to rotate. When I hold shift, I automatically do smooth. I am smoothing this out some right here. I'm going to hold Alt, then press M to take away the mask. Just hold the middle mouse button to rotate. Okay, I'm going to hold them in the mouse button to rotate. I'm going to hold shift. Smooth this out some here. And for the rest, we're going to go to the upper left, go to object mode, go to the wrench, add the smooth modifier, set the factor to 1. We're going to set the repeat to 5. I like how that looks. So I'm going to select apply. Go back to scope mode. Okay, I'm going to hold them in the mouse button. I'm going to hold shift. Shift activates the smooth tool and just smooth that out some there. I go to the crease brush. I'm going to hold control and actually make these slightly sharper. I'm letting go of control, and inside I am contrasting the sharpness by doing, going in instead of out. So when I hold control, I sharpen these creases. I let go of control like now, and I make the contrast by making the creases in between more. So I'm holding control, not holding control, holding control, not holding control, holding control, not holding control, not holding control. Holding control, not holding control, 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 holding control, not holding control. Okay, hold them in the mouse button to rotate. I'm going to go back to the mask brush. I'm actually going to go to our tool options, go down to symmetry, press X to turn that on. Doing this because I wanted to draw some pockets. So here's the mask tool. I was on the wrong tool. I'll press F to shrink the size of my brush. And basically what I'm doing here is I'm going to go to the inflate brush, press F to fill. Not F to fill, sorry. I don't know why I even said that. Just thinking about basic pockets here. So I'll go to the draw sharp. Hold control, press F to held control. Oh, that's right, it's draw sharp. That's what I wanted. Okay. Now see how that doesn't look good there, right? So if I press Q, turn on wireframes, because the geometry isn't that much there, right? So what we can do for that is we can use dynamic topology, which is what you would pretty much use almost all the time, or I would. I shouldn't say you. I would when sculpting. And what dynamic topology does is it lets us have limited increases in geometry instead of increasing the geometry of everything. So this is set to 2, which is very low, by the way. I'm going to set this to 5. I'm going to go to the simplify brush, and then I'll draw. Now you see how all that detail is being added in, all that geometry. I'm using relative. I'm going to go back to 2. There we go. So I want it just here. So what I'm going to do is press Q, wireframe. I'm going to smooth this out. I'll press F. If you want to smooth something out and smooth isn't working that well, you can use flatten. Oh, I'm still on. Okay. There we go. Flattening this out. Smoothing now. I'm holding shift is what I'm doing. Holding shift. And now that we have that, we'll go back to the draw sharp. And I just sharpen that edge up. I'm holding shift. I'm back on flattening this, flattening this out. Holding shift. I'll hold Alt M to take away that. And I'll take the blob brush. Hold Control here. Hold Shift. I'm going to go back to symmetry. I'm going to turn that off. Okay, hopefully from here you can see the basics, what you can do. Obviously you can spend more time and add more detail. We're going to go to View and then go to Toggle Local View to come out of Local View. We're going to go back to Object Mode. We're going to go to our Viewport Shading. We're going to go to Shift and the middle mouse button to pan. Shift as well as the middle mouse button to pan to the side. Let's go back to Sculpt. Wait a second. Okay, I'm in the right mode. Go to Inflate. Fix that. Okay. Go to the upper left, go to Object Mode. Okay, we're going to go to back to shading. Here in shading, what we're actually going to do is we're going to go to the right. We're going to, with this material we have here, we're going to select our shirt, right? This is the cloth material. We'll go to the right. We'll select this arrow. We'll select copy material. We'll select the pants. And then we'll select this arrow and then we'll select paste material. Now the reason why we did this was if I just selected the material, any changes I made to this material would change this material. But since I copied this material and pasted it here, now I can make changes without affecting this material. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to change the color. Okay, so to change up the texture on the pants some, we'll take this out. We'll go to Add, Texture, Checkered Texture. We'll add this in. . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . just to 1 so we can see what's going on. We'll take the scale up to about 150, around 150. We'll take the string to 0.4. Okay, I'm going to go back to the layout tab. I'm going to bring in a light. I'm going to hold shift, press the right mouse button to put the 3D cursor here. I'm going to hold shift, press A. I'm going to bring in a light. This is going to be a sunlight. I'm then going to hold shift and then right click here, press shift, press A. I'm going to bring in an empty cube, which is a non-renderable object. I'm going to select the light. I want the light to aim at this cube. So I'm going to go to the constraints. I'm going to go, select track 2. I'm going to take this eyedropper and select this empty. The light isn't aimed at the cube. I need to set this 2 to -Z and then the up to Y. Saw that in a Grant Abbott video the other day. I'm going to aim this towards our character there. So wherever I aim the wherever I set the cube, the light will aim at our character. Now what I'm going to do is go to a rendered view. I'm going to select the world tab. I'm going to take the strength for this down so we can get a look. Yeah, see the pants are too strong, so I'm going to go to, and when I say too strong, the strength, so I'm going to go back to shading. I set the strength to 0.2. Let's go back to layout. Okay, I like how we can see the texture, but they're not as strong. They being, the textures of the pants. Okay, I'm going to go to our overlays to turn that off. Yeah, I like how the shirt, the pants came out. Turn the overlay back on. And take the strength up to 1.5. I turn this overlay back on. With the light selected, hold shift, press D. Right click, I duplicate the light. I wasn't sure if I could lower this light down. Okay, it doesn't look like I can. You can take this up to 0.5. Okay, I was just adjusting the light so we can get a look at what we made. I'm going to turn off the overlays. Yeah, I like how this looks. I like how it came out. It's fairly easy to do. It doesn't use any physics or anything like that, as you saw. Okay, guys, that's it for the tutorial. For all of those of you out there who liked videos on this channel and reshare them, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And for those of you who are new to this channel, if you like the videos on this channel, you would like to see more, please subscribe, and thank you for viewing.